አንቺ ወደዚህ አውሪያት ወደሱ ሳይሆን የምታዩት እሱን እናንተ ራሳችሁ እየታያችሁ አው
While the city's horse-drawn wagons evoke the French influence of a place like Saint Louis, Senegal, Gondar's Art Deco-style buildings owe much more to Italy. Italy's invasion of Ethiopia in the 1930s was grim, but Italian expatriates who stayed on in Ethiopia did take the country seriously. Many have Ethiopian wives, and they actually call themselves Ethiopians, a Swiss visitor explains. This is quite a bit different from most colonials in Africa. Today, seeing Italians eating Ethiopian food only 2 doors down from Italian restaurants owned by their friends is hilarious, he continues. And hearing northern Ethiopians attributing various aspects of their national character to the Italians seems just as funny.
Well, one thing the Ethiopians are proud of is that they have never been colonized. If there had been, it was 5 years of fight against the Italians when they were trying to take over Ethiopia and make their own colony. But Ethiopians don't feel that 5 years is a time of colonization. They see it as a time where they prove to the world that they can stand any superpower.
Recently, a competition honoring the world's best historical towns was held in Russia. Of the 26 considered, Gondar finished second. Many Ethiopians claim to have a sister living in Washington, D.C. Amazingly, most are probably telling the truth. There's a connection between the United States and Gondar, an Ethiopian businessman explains in a brief airport conversation. In 1991, when Mengistu fell, many of the old guard fled to Sudan. From there, they secured papers to the U.S. Today, they are living in Atlanta, Boston, Toronto, Canada, and elsewhere. They have never forgotten their roots to Gondar, however. The connection is maintained to this day. If Gondar finished second in an international competition, one wonders where Lalibela would have finished. To a casual eye, the city is the more impressive of the two. Located some 200 bone-jarring miles to the southeast of Gondar, Lalibela is known by locals as the 8th wonder of the world. Bracingly cool at 8,600 feet, Lalibela, in one sense, is little more than a small mountain village with a rural feeling to it. The city has no bank, only one gas station, and hardly a pharmacy in sight. Its hotels and restaurants are barely adequate. The town, nonetheless, makes a delightful impression. To the backdrop of rolling hills and beautiful mountains, workmen go about their business, while children satisfy their playfulness with whatever they can lay their hands on. The city's marketplace alone is a timeless wonder. If Hollywood ever wished to do a sequel to the greatest story ever told, Lalibela would be an ideal place to film it. The set director might not need to bring a single prop. But visitors to Lalibela aren't just looking for seclusion and mountain air. Lalibela is home to a dozen 800-year-old churches, some freestanding, others carved into volcanic rock. Many are interconnected by a series of darkened tunnels. The Christian Orthodox structures are a maze of dimly lit passageways, courtyards, and trenches. They also conceal crevices and small caves where robed priests light beeswax candles and burn incense. Church ceremonies often begin at daybreak. They involve the use of drums, bells, and rattles, and are sometimes accompanied by dancing. The effect is haunting. In many parts of the world, such ceremonies would be little more than a show, put on for the benefit of the curious or the well-to-do. But in Lalibela, the city's religious culture dates back to the early Middle Ages. The festivities would be going on with or without visitors. The passage of 800 years has done little to quell Lalibela's religious passions. As Lalibela's native son, Getachew Kabede takes pride in his hometown and in his country, Ethiopia. Like many locals, he's more than happy to offer his services as a tour guide, possibly even skipping school in the process. While he could probably pass for 16 or 17, Getachew, at age 12, is not yet a teenager.
Since Lalibela is the historical place, and this is a holy place. Especially if you see the churches here, the 11 Rokia churches. Many people come from another country to visiting here. Especially I like Lalibela.
And you like living here?
Yeah, I like to live in here. We learn a subject. Amharic, geography, physics, chemistry, sport and mathematics.
What is your favorite?
My favorite subject is English and geography. Especially for future, when I finish my school, I like to be a medical doctor. Doctor is since he can get more salaries than the other job.
You want to have a good salary, right?
Yeah, I like that. I like to live, especially in America. Since there is so many Ethiopians living in America, so I like to go to America and England. I like to live in there.
What do you think England is like?
What?
Do you think England is nice?
Actually, we saw in the TV, and we saw in the TV, so it's quite nice, I think.
What's your favorite thing in school?
My favorite subject?
Yeah.
English and geography.
All right. Do you play football?
Yeah, we play sometimes in soccer, but there is a club at school. So especially after 1 week of competition to play with another team.
When Ethiopian families like Getachos entertain guests, a coffee ceremony, more likely than not, will be part of the agenda. The ceremony can take as long as 1 hour. It involves the brewing of 3 separate blends, from the strongest to the weakest. Getacho's mom begins by washing the sun-dried beans thoroughly, then placing them on a griddle. She then grinds the beans into a very fine powder with a mortar and pestle. Finally, the mixture is placed into a clay pot of water to boil, then served in 3-ounce cups. While sometimes taken with milk or brewed as cappuccino, a holdover from the Italian days, Ethiopian coffee is typically served thick, strong, and black. Accounting for more than half the nation's exports and involving 1/4 of the Ethiopian population, coffee is a central element in Ethiopian culture. Each region has its own distinct flavor, each village claiming to have the best. I don't even like coffee, an Eritrean expatriate explains, and in my opinion, in Ethiopia, they drink too much of it.
Good.
If coffee is Ethiopia's national drink, the country's national dish would probably be injera, a moist, foam rubber-like bread made from a grain called teff. Injera is used to scoop portions of spiced meat, vegetables, and rice by hand. Eating national food in Ethiopia is like breathing out and breathing in. It's awfully hard to beat the prices. 1 serving, shared by 4, averages out to be only about 25 cents apiece. It's amusing to hear northern Ethiopians speaking of tourists as though they are arriving in droves. In truth, the daily flight from Addis Ababa to Lalibela brings in no more than a handful of people, only a few of whom are actually tourists.